All right, let's talk about a founder who did something pretty crazy. He reached the goal that, let's be honest, most people are dreaming of, total financial freedom. But instead of, buying an island and retiring, he decided to jump straight into what he himself calls hell mode. So what's that all about? Let's get into it.
I mean, just listen to this. If you want to ruin a friend, convince him to start a car company. That's a quote from the guy we're talking about. He's Xiaopeng. So why on earth would someone who's already made it, who's already won the game, willingly choose to play an even harder one? He knew exactly how brutal the car industry was, and yet he dove in head first. That's the paradox we're digging into today.
Okay, so before he got into cars, there was software. To really get why he'd make such a wild leap later, we have to look at his first big success, UC Browser. And let me tell you, this was no overnight sensation. It was a long, slow climb to the top.
Xiaopeng himself actually called UC a slow company, which is kind of refreshing to hear, right? It took a full decade, 10 years, from when they first started as a little mobile email client to when they had this massive acquisition by Alibaba. They started small, they saw what people were actually doing with their product and pivoted, and then just slowly, painstakingly built momentum. This wasn't some kind of Silicon Valley sprint, it was a true 10-year marathon.
And to give you a real sense of what slow meant in the beginning, back in 2005, there was this one day where the whole team was just celebrating like crazy, popping champagne, high fives all around. And you know why? Because they had just gotten 100 new users. Not 100,000, a single 100. Okay, but now, fast forward a decade, that number, it had just exploded. We're talking over 2 million new users. Not in a year, not in a month, every single day. Just think about that scale. That was the massive success he had built from the ground up, and that was the incredibly comfortable life he was about to just walk away from. So, that huge Alibaba acquisition in 2014? That was it. He'd done it. He hit that goal of financial freedom he'd set for himself way back in college. The ultimate dream, right? But after a couple of weeks of vacation, trying to relax, he realized something was wrong. He was bored. The challenge was just gone. And he could feel this other, much, much harder challenge calling his name. So what was that challenge? He decided to jump from the fast-paced, kind of forgiving world of software into the brutal, capital-intensive world of building actual physical cars. And let me tell you, the rules of that game were not just different, it was like a whole new universe. And this move, it created this instant, massive culture shock. You know that whole move fast and break things mantra from the internet world? Well, in the hardware world, that's basically poison. Think about it. You can't just push an overnight software update to fix a faulty brake system, can you? A mistake in hardware isn't just a bug you patch later. It's a massive, potentially catastrophic recall that can sink your whole company.
There's this great story Xiaopeng tells that just perfectly captures the, let's call it, mysterious self-confidence a lot of internet execs had. One of them apparently drove his Maserati to the office, pointed at it, and told the engineers, just make one of these, but cheaper. You can just picture it, right? They really thought their success in software would just naturally translate. They looked at a car and genuinely thought, how hard can this be? Well, as he was about to find out, the reality was very, very humbling.
So at first, he was just an investor in Xpeng. But then, in 2017, he went all in, full time. And the story goes that a friend pointed out to him that his eyes only lit up when he was talking about cars. And that was the moment he realized, whoa, this isn't just another business investment for me. This was his next mountain to climb.
But look, choosing to enter hell mode is one thing. Actually surviving it, that's a whole different story. Xpeng was about to face not one, but 2 near-death experiences that would test absolutely every ounce of his resolve. First up, 2019, the cash crunch. The company was literally months away from not being able to make payroll. It was that dire. He had to reach into his own pocket and write a check for hundreds of millions of dollars just to keep the lights on. Then, just when they thought they were getting stable, 2022 hits. They have this disastrous launch for their new G9 model, and sales just plummet. It created this huge crisis of confidence inside the company.
So after that G9 launch completely failed, Xiaopeng went into this period of really deep and I'm sure very painful reflection. He spent months just digging into what went wrong, peeling back the layers one by one, and eventually he came to a pretty brutal conclusion about what, or who, the real problem was.
He realized the problem was him. He had been acting like a hands-off chairman, delegating and trusting his teams to handle everything. But what the company actually needed, especially in that crisis, was a wartime CEO. Someone on the front lines, deep in the muck, deep in the details. So what did he do? He essentially had to fire himself from his old role and step directly into the new one.
And the turnaround that followed was incredibly swift and decisive. He took direct control of the day-to-day operations. And over the next 18 months, he went through this massive and I'm sure gut-wrenching reorganization. We're talking replacing 90%, almost all of his top-level department heads. It was all about refocusing the entire company back on its core strengths, technology and design. So, having survived that trial by fire, Xiaopeng's vision has now expanded way beyond just the four wheels on the road. For him, the car isn't the end goal. The car is just the platform, the starting point, for the next big wave of technology.
He's betting the entire company's future on AI. He's building one of the biggest in-house AI computing centers in the auto industry to power the next generation of self-driving. But it doesn't stop on the ground. He's also looking to the sky with a flying car venture. Yeah, a flying car, an eVTOL, that's targeting a commercial launch in 2026. And if that's not far out enough for you, his long-term bet is on humanoid robots.
And all of this brings us right back to that core question we started with. After you've reached the summit, after you've made it, do you retire or do you go looking for an even bigger mountain? For Xiaopeng, it seems pretty clear that the reward for climbing one mountain isn't a long rest. It's just getting a better view of the next, taller, and even more difficult peak on the horizon.